Every dewdrop on this path of fire is 100 seas of flame. Alas, this enigma has no explanation or description. Wow. That first line from Hafez, it just throws you right in, doesn't it?
It really does, that image. A delicate dewdrop, but it holds the intensity of, well, 100 seas of fire. It's a perfect starting point for what we're digging into today.
Yeah, that paradox seems central to the insights from those conversations between Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani in the Marifat series.
Exactly. We're focusing exclusively on Hafez Shirazi today, using their discussions from audio sources like 14604 Azar 1390.mp3 and Hafiz, Divine Presence, and The Journey Within.wave.
And this is part of our ongoing exploration of those talks, right? This specific deep dive.
That's right. This is number 36 in our series of 40, really focusing in.
Okay, and just a quick heads up for everyone listening, this is a translation of philosophical discussions, originally in Persian. So some concepts, some details might not translate perfectly. We apologize in advance if anything feels a little lost in translation.
Absolutely. And our goal today really is to unpack these ideas from Hafez that seem almost contradictory, how the spiritual path is incredibly tough, fiery even.
Right.
But at the same time, there's this hint of the divine being always present, even if unseen. That opening ghazal really sets up this whole tension we want to explore.
Okay, great. So let's dive into this fiery path. Dr. Dinani mentioned something about Hafez's ghazals not just being random beautiful lines, but having a kind of logic.
Yes, that's a key point he makes. While you can take almost any verse from Hafez and it stands alone, powerfully, there's also a thread, a logical connection weaving through the ghazal.
Oh,
It's almost like
yeah.
he's building an argument or maybe exploring different facets of a single truth verse by verse. In this case, moving from divine beauty in the world to the hiddenness of the divine essence itself.
Interesting. And this path in Ra, as Hafez calls it, what path are they talking about? Where does it lead?
Dr. Dinani clarifies it's the path of truth. The path towards God, towards understanding the divine essence, the divine attributes. It's the classic spiritual journey.
The one prophets, saints, mystics, they all talk about how hard it is.
Exactly. It's universally described as, well, challenging, the ultimate quest, you could say.
Challenging seems like an understatement with that opening line. So why is it so difficult, according to Dr. Dinani's take? What makes it fiery?
The main difficulty, he suggests, comes from within. It's the constant battle against our own endless desires, our egoistic tendencies.
Oh, yeah.
He uses the analogy of, say, wanting money or power. For humans, unlike animals whose desires are pretty basic, ours can just expand infinitely. That insatiable quality, it becomes a huge hurdle on a path that requires letting go.
Which loops us right back to that incredible line. Every dewdrop on this path of fire is 100 seas of flame. It sounds like pure poetry, maybe exaggeration. What's the deeper meaning Dr. Dinani finds?
Well, he argues it's not just exaggeration. The interpretation is that even something seemingly pure, gentle, like a dewdrop maybe representing a small good deed, a moment of clarity, on this path, even that can feel like an immense trial, like navigating a sea of fire. He points to the contrast, water versus fire. It symbolizes the constant internal friction, the opposition, the purification needed.
So it's not just external stuff tripping us up. Even things we think are good are virtues.
Precisely. That's a crucial point Dr. Dinani makes. Even something like excessive pride in your own piety, feeling spiritually superior. That itself can become a sea of fire. It obstructs you.
Yeah.
The ego is subtle, it can creep into even our best intentions.
Like that idea of hidden shirk,
Yeah,
associating partners with God in ways we don't even notice.
exactly that. Shirk isn't just bowing to idols. In its subtle form, Dr. Dinani explains, it can be self-conceit, thinking I did this, or being proud of your worship, seeing it as your accomplishment rather than a gift. He even mentions a hadith. It compares the whisper of this hidden shirk to the sound of a tiny black ant crawling on a black stone on a pitch-dark night. Almost impossible to detect.
So just wanting to be good or trying to be good, it's not enough. It needs constant vigilance.
It requires this whole process of purification. Dr. Dinani talks about stages. First, you have to identify those desires, those ego trips. Then consciously step away, understand them, not just push them down.
Right.
And this needs constant awareness, agahi, he calls it, in that moment-to-moment self-check, muraqabah muhaseba. It connects to he who knows himself knows his Lord. But that knowing isn't just intellectual, it's deep self-awareness, distinct from, say, annihilation or fana.
And Dr. Dinani insists Hafez isn't just using poetic license here. This difficulty is actually how it feels.
Yes, he argues strongly that it's not hyperbole for Hafez. It's an accurate reflection of the felt difficulty of the path, especially for someone who is truly aware of their inner landscape, their struggles. He contrasts this with poets talking about worldly love or battles where exaggeration might be more common.
He uses some intense metaphors too, doesn't he? For the dangers on this path.
Oh, absolutely. Dr. Dinani talks about robbers, wolves, predators. These aren't external threats. They represent the deceptions of the ego, the pitfalls within us that can lead us astray on the path of truth.
So how do you protect yourself?
The only real protection, he stresses, is the mention of truth, Zikri Haq. That constant remembrance, that awareness of God is what helps you see through the ego's tricks and stay on course.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly, bringing in the other audio source too. We need to talk about the unseen sign. It starts with that beautiful line. Since without the beauty of the beloved, the heart has no inclination for the world. Whoever does not have this, truly does not have that.
Right. This introduces two key concepts, divine beauty, Jamal, and its manifestations in the world, Jalveh. Dr. Dinani's point here is fascinating. He suggests our soul doesn't naturally gravitate towards the material world unless it senses a reflection, an echo, of that deeper divine beauty within it.
So our attraction to the world isn't just baseline. It's connected to something higher.
That's the idea. He even poses a thought experiment. Imagine someone totally lacking intellect or perception. Would they be drawn to the world at all? What would pull them? It implies our capacity for attraction, for finding beauty, is rooted in this connection to Jamal.
So all the beautiful things we see, nature, art, kindness, these are the Jalveh, the manifestations.
Exactly. They are seen as the reflections, the outward signs, the Jalveh of that underlying fundamental beauty, the Jamal, like sunlight glinting off countless surfaces, all originating from the one sun.
And there's a constant back and forth between what we see, the Jalveh, and the hidden source, Jamal.
Precisely. A constant interplay. Dr. Dinani uses the analogy of seeing sunlight reflected on water versus trying to look directly at the sun. We perceive the Jalveh, the reflections, the effects, but the ultimate source, the Jamal, remains veiled, too intense perhaps, yet it's the source of everything we see.
Now that second part, whoever does not have this truly does not have that. Dr. Dinani said it's a bit ambiguous. What are the possibilities for this and that?
Yes, he highlights the ambiguity as being quite profound. One way to read it is, if you lack this, the inner perception, the heart's connection to divine Jamal, then you won't truly appreciate or understand that, the Jalveh, the manifestations of beauty in the world. You'll see the form, but miss the substance.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the other way is sort of the reverse. If you're blind to this, the beauty and wonder of creation, the Jalveh all around you, then you're effectively cutting yourself off from that, the underlying divine source, the Jamal. You can't reach the source if you ignore its signs. Both interpretations work, and they show how interconnected the inner and outer perceptions are.
It really brings us back to knowing yourself to know God, doesn't it? Not just looking outward.
Absolutely. Dr. Dinani stresses knowing the true self, the one connected to divine guidance, not the ego self, the Nafs-e Ammara, as he calls it. Understanding our own inner connection helps us recognize the divine reflected externally.
Then Hafez shifts things with the next couplet. And with no one did I see a sign of that heart-ravishing one. Either I have no news, or he has no sign. This sounds like he can't find God, after all.
But it's a subtle shift. This brings in the crucial distinction between God's attributes like beauty, knowledge, power, which are manifest, and God's essence, the Dhat. The essence itself is considered utterly transcendent, hidden.
The unseen of the unseen.
Exactly, Kaya-Bakab, or the hidden treasure, Kanzi Makfi. Philosophers and mystics agree that the Dhat is beyond our direct grasp. There's even that saying, do not reflect upon the essence of God because it's beyond conceptualization.
Hafez isn't contradicting himself. Seeing beauty everywhere, then seeing no sign.
Not at all. He's differentiating. We see signs of the attributes, but the essence, the heart-ravishing one in its ultimate reality, that's different. And notice his careful wording. He gives two reasons why he sees no sign.
Right, what were those again?
The first is, either I have no news. This points the finger inward. Maybe the limitation is mine. Maybe I lack the capacity, the purity, the insight to perceive a sign of the essence. It's my failing. The second possibility is, or he has no sign. This suggests something different. Perhaps the essence, by its very nature, cannot have a sign in the way we understand signs. It's not about my limitation, but about the inherent transcendence of the Dhat. Hafez leaves it open, acknowledging the mystery.
It makes me think of those mystical ideas about veils of light.
Yes, Hijab-e Noor, veils not of darkness, but made of the divine attributes themselves. These radiant realities reveal God in one sense, but if you get stuck on the attribute itself, it can veil the essence behind it.
So the goal is to see through the beauty to the source, but that source might be fundamentally unseeable in a direct way.
That seems to be the implication. The path leads towards the source, but full comprehension might be elusive. Even divine knowledge, marifat, can become a veil if it stops at the intellect.
But this essence is so hidden, why does it matter? Why focus on it?
Because, as Dr. Dinani points out, the essence is what sustains everything else. Attributes don't float freely, they need an essence. His analogy is perfect. Thoughts need a thinker. All the divine qualities point back to the Dhat as their source and sustainer.
It's definitely deep, hard to wrap your head around.
It is, and Dr. Larijani brings up how even philosophers like Ibn Sina struggled to define essence itself. Definitions rely on attributes, on descriptions, but how do you describe that which underlies all description?
Right, like trying to describe color to someone who's never seen it.
Exactly. Rumi said, the description of the description is impossible. There has to be something being described. And Mullah Sadra linked this to desire pressed. He suggested our constant yearning, our seeking, exists precisely because we haven't fully grasped the essence. If we had, the seeking would stop.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us to the final section we wanted to explore, what Dr. Dinani called the destination of fraud. We're back with that difficult path, the enigma. Every dewdrop is 100 seas of flame. Alas, this enigma has no explanation. How does Hafez guide us from there?
Well, following that acknowledgement of the sheer difficulty and mystery, Hafez offers this advice. Do not carelessly lose the destination of peace, O camel driver. Halt, for this road has no end.
And Dr. Dinani sees a clear connection, a logical step here.
Absolutely. It's like Hafez is saying, okay, this path is incredibly hard, maybe even endless in terms of full comprehension, but don't lose sight of the peace, the tranquility farakat that you can find along the way.
How do you find that peace amidst the fire?
Through the remembrance of God, Dhikr Allah. Dr. Dinani connects it directly to the Quranic verse. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. So even when every step feels like a trial, that constant awareness, that turning towards the divine brings an inner stillness. Don't lose that, Hafez warns.
And the camel driver, the Sarban, that's the seeker.
Yes, it's addressed to the spiritual traveler. The call to halt for Rakesh isn't about giving up, it's about pausing, finding that inner peace, regaining strength, because the road is long, maybe infinite, Kinra, Karan, Nadarad. This road has no shore, no end. It's a strategic pause for an endless journey.
Finding moments of sweetness, then, even when it's tough.
Exactly. That peace makes the path bearable, perhaps even joyful. Dr. Dinani touches on this interesting human contradiction. We often want a final destination, yet in knowledge and spirit we're drawn to the infinite. But it's not a pointless infinity, it's an infinitely unfolding purpose.
This leads to that point about understanding itself. Fahm versus Fahmidan.
Right. Dr. Dinani contrasts Fahm, understanding as a static thing you arrive at, with Fahmidan, the act of understanding, which is continuous, always new. True spiritual understanding, he suggests, is this dynamic process, and it's inherently pleasurable.
Not like worldly pleasure that just fills a lack.
He distinguishes it, yes.
Yeah.
Drawing on some Ismaili thought, he notes that spiritual pleasure, the joy of insight, isn't necessarily preceded by pain or lack. The very act of understanding, of seeing something new on the path, brings its own joy.
So the journey itself, step by step, is rewarding.
Definitely. Each step can bring new understanding, increasing joy. It's a constant becoming, moving from light to greater light.
Then comes that image. The crooked-backed harp sings of joy. Listen, for the advice of the elders has no harm. What's going on there?
The Chenga Kamira, the crooked harp, is a powerful symbol. It represents someone bent, maybe aged, someone who has endured the hardships of the path. But crucially, it now sings of joy. It tells us that wisdom and even happiness can come through those trials.
And the elder, the peer.
The peer represents that accumulated wisdom, the experience gained on the journey. Hafez is saying, listen to those who've walked the path. Their advice is invaluable.
So valuing experience even in our modern world.
Yes, Dr. Dinani really emphasizes this. The peer's advice comes from deep experience, which is different from just having information. It's lived wisdom.
Then Hafez gives us that warning about Karun's treasure being scattered by the wind, telling us to read that into our hearts so that gold holds no secret.
A clear warning against attachment to worldly wealth. Krun's story is the classic example of vast riches that just vanish. It underscores the fleeting, unreliable nature of material possessions compared to the eternal value of the spiritual path.
And then an even starker image. Go out of the house of the turning sky and seek no sustenance, for this black bowl will ultimately kill its guest.
Yeah, the world as a black bowl, Sia Kase. It feeds you, yes, but ultimately it's the vessel of your demise. It's a call for detachment, for not putting your ultimate trust or seeking your ultimate purpose in the temporary provisions of the material world.
Hafez really hammers this theme of detachment, doesn't he?
He does, consistently. Letting go of wealth, status, ego, worldly comforts, it's presented as absolutely essential for making any real progress on this path. Attachments are anchors.
And finally, that verse where he calls himself God's servant. No one in the world has a servant like Hafez, for since you are king, no one in the world has such a one. Sounds quite bold.
It does, but it's understood as profound humility and devotion. He's claiming a unique status as Bande, a servant, precisely because his master is the ultimate king, God. Dr. Dinani touches on the beautiful reciprocity here. Creation depends on God, yes, but God's manifestation, his names and attributes, become known through creation.
Which brings us right back to the world reflecting the divine.
Exactly. The world as Zuhur manifestation. Like that other verse mentioned. Your rosebush of beauty sprouted, heart inflaming. We applied our breath of endeavor to it. Creation and the Creator inextricably linked.
So wrapping this up, we've journeyed through Hafez's depiction of this intensely difficult spiritual path, the elusive nature of the divine essence hidden behind its beautiful manifestations, and this constant call for awareness, remembrance, and detachment. It's quite a lot to take in.
It truly is. Hafez, through the lens of Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani's discussions, offers such profound, layered wisdom. It's a path of fire, yes, but also one potentially filled with peace and transformative understanding.
It certainly makes you reflect on your own journey, the fires you encounter, and what signs you look for or maybe overlook. Definitely food for thought.
Absolutely. And the journey with this ghazal isn't over. Next time, we'll delve even deeper into some of these lines, especially that enigma and the seas of fire. There's still more to unpack.
Looking forward to it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the enduring wisdom of Hafez.